channel. Well, I haven't done an actual knife walk and talk in a while, and I was thinking about a knife for self-defense, and it's kind of like the one thing you would want to carry always and hopefully never use. If you do it right, you never use it. So usually it depends on the situation. You know, like if you're going to depend on a knife, then you want a super heavy duty one, a sturdy one, if you know you're going to be using it a lot. But if it's going to be an occasional use and not even for what your intended purpose is, then it doesn't have to be constructed as heavily, because it probably won't be used as much. Of course, you're taking a gamble there, because you never know. You never know when you're going to need it or what you're going to need it for. And a lot of people compromise. For example, right now I'm carrying the Cold Steel Kaboom because it's 4 ounces as opposed to the Master Tanto is 9 ounces. Now you might think that that's not much difference in weight. Shut up, dog. But in reality, if you're carrying it on you all the time, and it's a big heavy knife, which that one's not necessarily a big heavy knife, then you would notice it. But the thing is, it comes down to it's not the knife, it's the person. It's the person behind the knife. And if they know how to use it, it doesn't matter what the size is up to a certain point. I mean, the length of the knife a lot of times is limited because depth of penetration. If you keep it under 3 inches, there's less of a possibility of somebody reaching a vital organ in a stab, but it can still be lethal with a slice or a stab in the proper place. So you have to be more precise with one of those. And, you know, walking around with a buoy on your hip, you're going to feel it. You know, a pound, you're carrying a pound of weight or more on your hip. Now, if you're somewhere where it's the only thing that you got, you might put up with that because it's going to do multiple things for you that a light knife wouldn't be able to do. But you're going to pay for it with the weight, you know, carrying it on your hip. Every time you sit down, you know, a longer knife is going to poke in your side. Now the Kaboom in the Master Tanto, the Master Tanto's only slightly longer. It's a sturdier knife. It feels better in the hand. It could take a lot more tough use. But again, a self-defense knife is something, you know, that you hopefully never use for self-defense. So, and it's probably a young crowd, but those of you that think that would be good to get into a knife fight have never been into a knife fight before. And you think cutting your finger is bad, cutting other parts of your body is worse. But I'm of the thought it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Now you can get carried away with that, just by looking at my keychain on all the extra gadgets I start throwing on there. A mini survival kit. That thing itself can become a weapon just from its weight, and it's on a chain. It's like a flail. But yeah, if you're just gonna go walking around and you don't think you're gonna need much, then oftentimes it's just extra weight that you're carrying. Now me, like I said, I don't mind. Like when I'm doing this, I could be carrying a pew-pew, but I usually don't, because again, it's risk assessment, threat assessment, stuff like that. There's a little striped kitty, or white face. It all depends on what you think you're gonna need and what you actually need. And if you think, well, I spent, my entire life never been assaulted, it's never gonna happen to me, you can make incorrect assumptions. Just because it never happened before doesn't mean it can't happen. The main thing again is situational awareness. If you know you're going to go into a situation where you're going to need the best tool possible, well, and if you don't bring it, that's on you. And many of time, just having a knife on me gave me enough reassurance to act calmly in a bad situation, because I knew if it came down to it, I had a means to protect myself. And sometimes that reassurance right there can keep you from doing stupid things. You don't want to get involved in a situation, but you're not going to run away from it either. I mean, really, if you can avoid a fight, there's nothing wrong with swallowing your pride and walking off, or letting things go, because no one wins in a real fight. Everybody's going to get some damage, and the older you get, the less damage you can take. You may think you're in your 20s or 30s, but you're not. Your body's going to remind you. You may think you had lightning reflexes, but you don't anymore. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a weakling or put up with abuse or anything like that. You just got to know your limitations. It's the same way with your knife. If you know that you've got a lightweight knife, and you subject it to heavy use, heavy abuse, well, if it fails, it's not really the knife's fault. Sometimes people have a hard time admitting that they were wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I make mistakes. I'm trying to get my walk done early because summer's starting early. We're above normal temperatures. But yeah, I try to get 2 miles every day in. I'm not always able to do that. Sometimes it's the weather. If you wait too long, you wait till noon or almost noon, that walk is going to be a lot different than if you would have done it in the morning. I like the fact that there's not a lot of people around. A lot of times they're just going to work or something. I'm not totally antisocial, but I can go perfectly fine without talking to people if I have to. I don't need other people around me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just I don't need it. And as far as like meeting people and talking to them, yeah, you know, that's nice and everything, but I can entertain myself. Oh, yesterday I scored really big on by the dumpster. Now people here, I don't know if it's just in Texas, but if there's nice objects, they won't put them in the dumpster. They'll put them on the outside, kind of like on display. I didn't pick it up, but there was a three-legged stool, or you know, table the other day sitting out there, and it sat out there for a couple of days. I kept looking at it and I'm saying, no, I've got too much stuff already. I don't need any more. That car sure is slow rolling by a lot. That's another thing you learn, is suspicious activity. You know, if something goes on, why is that? If you're walking, all the other cars are going at normal speed, and you find a car that's kind of like keeping pace with you, and slow, and looking around, it may be somebody lost, thinking about asking you a question, or it could be somebody casing you out. The world is filled with human predators, and they don't, like most predators, they don't go after the strongest. They go after the weak, the sick, the distracted, and people not aware of the situation. Male or female, it doesn't matter. If you're a target, you're a target. And the thing is, to make yourself not a target, be aware of your surroundings, really is what it comes down to. No, this sounds bad. You know, you think, it shouldn't be that way. No, it shouldn't. But that's reality, man. There's always, you watch old westerns, you watch any movie and stuff like that, there's always been the bully or the gang leader, and that's the one who's really weak but is trying to look tough with their minions, you know? And they've got to prove it a lot of times, but they're tough by having their minions attack you or something. And in those situations, it's the head of the snake type of thing. It's the leader you want to go after. If you have to go through the minions to get the leader, you do it. But the best fight is the one you never have. That's the one you win. If you avoid a confrontation, or however you do it, then you won that fight that never happened. You were going to lose if a real fight happened, but that's never my intention. I don't look at it as like I'm outnumbered, well, I might as well surrender. The more someone wants to force me to do something, the more likely I am to resist. I mean, that's just in my nature. And I'm not necessarily a really tough guy or anything like that. It's just I've learned you can't appease bullies. If you let them get away with abusing you physically or verbally, they're going to keep pushing it. They're going to push it to see how far they can get. And I see this process playing out. I'm going to sidestep a few. I'm going to cut out a few steps. I'm not going to let it play out to the end without jumping to the end chapter first. I was watching a documentary about Bruce Lee, and he was talking about how people get caught up in styles of fighting, and he said, in fighting there is no style. The fight is to survive. That's what the fight is. However you do it, whichever way you do it, that's the way to do it. If you're stuck in some ritual and stylized way of fighting, you're going to get your ass handed to you. by somebody who's never studied that and doesn't know, oh, when you do this, I should do this. And that's what a lot of this is. It's choreographed moves a lot of times. And that's not the way real fights go. I haven't been in a lot of fights in my life. I'm just saying, I've been in enough to know you don't want to get into fights if you can avoid it. But if it comes down to it, my attitude is, well, I'm not going to go down without a fight. If I can help it, it's going to cost them. And if not for me, then for the next victim that comes up, you know, the next time somebody tries that, they might have a thought, remember that time we tried to jump that old man and he wound up handing our ass to us, you know? And that's not for bragging rights. That's just survival. You do what you got to do. And you've got to be prepared to do it. You can't be hesitant about it. Oh, I wonder about this or that. That'll get your butt in trouble. Anytime I've been in a life or death situation, which I've been in some before, once my mind takes over, I don't have to worry about, I know what I'm doing. It's scary and at the same time sobering. You don't always have time to react either. But here comes the trash pickup. But anyways, what I found out yesterday at the dump was an entire kitchen set. I mean, plates, bowls, silverware, not real silver, of course. Even a mixie thing. It has a little like spring ball in it. And you put your drink in there and you shake it up and it mixes everything. Kind of cool. All this stuff was like, it had been used before, but in perfect condition. And the main thing about the bowls and the dishes and stuff is they're microwavable. I've had other stuff that's not microwavable. So you put it in there and the whole plate heats up. But anyways, yeah, that's just my thought about self-defense knives. It's something you'll carry a lot with the hopes that you never have to use it. I don't have necessarily, I have some that are dedicated self-defense, and I don't use them for anything else. I don't use them for cutting open packages. I mean, I use them occasionally just to get the feel of the knife, but I keep a sharp edge on it. And when I'm carrying it, I have another knife to do all the mundane tasks, you know, like I'm carrying 3 on me today. That's my kind of like mundane task. And then I've got just a little play around knife, and that's a spike. And again, a lot of these, it's the length of the knife gives you an advantage. You don't have to get as close. You have a longer cutting radius. If you're stuck with a short knife, small knife, then you're going to be limited in what you can do with it. It doesn't mean it's ineffective. It's just your tactics are going to have to be different. But like I said, I'm not a self-defense expert and all that. But I've been in enough situations and survived that it's good enough for me. And it might be good enough for you. The main thing, like I said, is situational awareness. If you're walking around and you're chatting on your phone or looking at your email and that car is shadowing you and you don't notice it, well, it's pretty easy for somebody much bigger than you or more people than you to ambush you. If you look at predators, a lot of times that's what they do. They sneak up on things. They try to catch them when they're unsuspecting. You watch a cat stalking a bird. He takes slow, deliberate moves. He doesn't rush up on them. He wants to get as close as he can before he pounces. And the human criminal is like that also a lot of times. If they see you're the friendly type, they might come up and ask you something, just so that your guard will be put down, so that your mind will say, this person's not a threat. They just want directions, or they just want to smoke, or they want to know what time it is. Anything that a normal person wouldn't think two things about. In certain situations, that can be the thing that's throwing you off, distracting you, getting your mind to think about matches, a watch, where's my phone, that type of thing. And then, before you know it, surprise, you've been robbed, or mugged, or kidnapped. And why? Well, it's because you weren't paying attention to what was going on. Yeah, it's bad. We got people like that in the world, and it shouldn't be that way. But that's reality, you know. And if nothing happens, you can call me paranoid. But you know, you made it through another day. Call it paranoid all you want. But I'm not going to be the one that they snatch with that slow rolling car trick. You know? Now, again, that one was probably innocent. There's probably nothing sinister about it at all. Maybe they lost a cell phone, you know, and they're looking for it. But you don't want to get too, you know, on edge, where you see ghosts around every corner, zombies in every park, you know. But you also don't want to have your head in the sand. Yeah, it's nice and dark when you got your head in the sand, but guess what? Your butt's up in the air, fully unprotected. Anyways, it's usually quiet around here, like I said. And even though I never need a knife when I'm walking around, it's nice to have one on me. It's not the first thing I would choose to defend myself, and it's not the last thing I would use either. But it's an option, and having options is important sometimes. Anyways, I gotta check my mileage. I'm about done here. Thank you for walking around with me, and have a nice day.